Rui, I think that in most of the most severe cases we are dealing with today, places like Somalia or Syria or Colombia or the Congo, there's considerable tension between the elites in these countries that mostly find themselves in the center, control the center of the countries, and those people on the periphery of the country. And this is mostly around exclusion, inequality, marginalization. So it also means that in terms of governance, in many cases the governance, the degree to which there is governance, it is focused on parts of the country that the governments control, that the elites control. And people on the periphery feel marginalized and left out. I think especially in many cases the youth have a feeling of despondency, a feeling of no future that they see for themselves, a lack of identity and dignity. So this, I think, underlies a lot of the frustration that we see at the moment, and that then very often materializes as violent conflict. I think when we do peace building, our main focus is on helping societies build resilient institutional capacity so that they are able to manage their own conflicts peacefully. And when we want to help these societies, we have to influence very complex social systems. And we've learned in the past that blueprint approaches, top-down approaches, are not very effective when you try to influence a complex system like this. So the adaptive approach is a methodology, a way of coping with complexity. And essentially in practice it means that we engage with the societies that we are trying to transform. Participation is a very important element of the adaptive approach. And it means that we, together with them, learn from doing. We experiment, we try different options of engaging, bringing about the transformations we would like to bring. And we learn from that process together, and then we adapt. And we learn as a result of this engagement. So another important element is variety in the context of coming up with a range of trying different things, because we don't know beforehand what will work. And selection, a conscious effort to monitor the results or the effects of our different attempts, and to then make choices, the adaptation about which kind of activities do we continue with. And then lastly, I think it's very important to do this regularly. So it's an iterative process of very regularly engaging and learning from this process. Yeah, this is a very interesting development. I mean, we see countries like China, India, Brazil, South Africa, they all now have development agencies. And of course they have been involved in forms of cooperation for very many years. But there seems to be a convergence developing where a lot of these new developing country agencies are moving in a sense towards development, whereas many of the previous developed countries and development agencies, they are moving more towards strategic partnership. And I think that if one has to generalize, there's of course a lot of diversity among this group of countries, but if I have to generalize, I would say that these countries are probably more focused on long-term investment, trade, infrastructure-led theories of change. They look at their own experience, especially the Asian tiger kind of experience, and they see that this has had the best results for them. And so although they also are engaged in, let's say, human development, education, health and so on, their focus is on kind of much more longer-term growth-led transformation. When we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, I think it's important to remember that these are goals that the countries, member states of the United Nations, have signed up to themselves. So these are goals that the countries themselves want to achieve. And I think our main role as international actors in the area of development and peace building is to support national institutions, national capacities to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think we need to align behind these institutions, support them, and empower them, help them to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. I think we can also look to more perhaps South-South cooperation. A country like South Africa may have more appropriate knowledge to share with countries like Zimbabwe or Mozambique than perhaps Norway or Japan. But in that process, a country like South Africa may want to learn from ways in which countries like Norway and Japan have planned and approached their development assistance and how they evaluate their development assistance. So I think there's a lot of room for cooperation, North, South, South, or triangular cooperation.